Welcome to Mind Shift Power Podcast, a show for teenagers and the adults who work with them, where we have raw and honest conversations. I'm your host, Fatima Bey, the Mind Shifter. And welcome. In today's episode, we are going to talk about getting out of a toxic relationship. And today we have Janaya on here. She's a 17-year-old young woman from Amsterdam. If you've listened to this podcast, you've heard from her before, and you're definitely going to hear a lot more from her. I wanted you to know that she is the one that actually approached me about having this conversation um, on the air. I did not ask her to come on and tell her story, but she really wanted to come out and talk to all of you and tell her story in hopes that it can help other young women like herself. And I'm really proud of her for being willing to open up to others like that, because that can be a little bit hard to do. But she wanted to do this, and I want you to know that she's really truly coming from her heart, and wants to help people. So how you doing today, Janaya?
Great.
Good. So let's dive right in. Obviously, you were in a toxic relationship and you got out of it. Tell the listeners, what did the toxic relationship that you were in look like?
It was very mentally abusive. When I say mentally abusive, he um when we got into problems, he didn't it was a lack of communication. He would just always give me like the cold shoulder, just push me away. He'll say like very hurtful things like, "Oh my god, you're so freaking annoying. Go away. I don't care. Shut up, shut up." Just a lot of anger, also insecurities. When I say insecurities, he will say, "No, you can't wear this. You can't do that. You can't you can't go to that place. You're not allowed to do this." Like very, very controlling,
Hmm.
and it's just a lot.
Okay. I think it's important to mention those details because I'm pretty sure there's listeners out there right now who are in that situation. And we hear the word toxic all the time, but I think it's overused so much that it has lost its meaning. So
Mhm.
that's why I asked you to be specific about what what is what was toxic about it. And how long were you in this relationship?
It was 2 years. I was in it for 2 years.
And you're 17 now.
Yes, I met him when I was 15. I met him when I was 15. I'm 17, so it was 2 years. Yep.
That's a long time, especially at your age. That's like a
Yeah.
million years, right?
Yeah.
I know, 9 months was a million years when I was like a teenager. So I know that 2 years is 2 million years. Um, so you were in it. Now, I would like you to tell the audience, how did that make you feel?
um I felt like crap. I felt like I was no one. I had very low self-esteem because he would tell me things like, "No, you're dumb, you're wrong, look at the way how you're thinking, see, that don't make sense." So it's like I'm thinking like something's really really wrong with me. But then right after I, left him, and a few months later, it took me like, to process it, but I also realized like there was nothing wrong with me. It was wrong. Something was wrong with the way how he talks to me and communicates with me, and I realized like he was not the one for me.
Oh, it's more than just not being for you. But we'll talk
Yeah.
about that in a minute. Because sometimes people are like, oh, he's the one for me. If he's not treating you like like you're valuable,
Mhm.
he's not the one for you
Because
or anybody
I
else,
did not see
really.
the reason why I stayed with him for a long time because like
Hmm.
I didn't have no value. I didn't see my value. That's what I
Hmm.
meant, and I didn't know my worth. But then I ended up finding it.
And yeah. So you were in it for 2 years.
Hmm.
Tell people, how did you get out of it?
So I was talking to Miss Bay about it. I was venting to her about all the things that he did and what was going on and how I got
Hmm.
treated. So at the end of our conversation, she prayed to God, saying, she prayed to God, hoping any toxic people will like get away from me. Like, just, she told God, can you, if there's anyone in a toxic household or anything that anyone that's bothering her, just please, like, get it away from me. And then 2 days later, he was gone.
Yes, and to the audience, to be specific, I ask that for God to remove any person, place, or thing that's in her life that doesn't belong there. I didn't specifically
Yeah.
say get that guy out of her life,
Yeah.
even though I knew that he didn't need to be there. But if I had said it that way, I may have just pushed Janiyah away because she might have been right. Am I right, Janiyah?
Yep.
Might have been like, you just trying to get me to get rid of my boyfriend,
Yeah.
right? And even though I knew he was no good for you and he needed to be gone, I needed it to happen in a way that you were uh, consenting with it and a part of that, and not just me talking at you as an adult,
Yes.
because that's very ineffective for people.
Yes.
And so what happened? I prayed, and then 2 days later, he was poof gone.
Yeah, he said, you know what? I'm done with you. Don't I never ever ever want to talk to you ever again. So like, the garbage just took itself out. That's like really what happened.
I didn't mean to clap so loud, but I just love the way you just said that. But you're right. The garbage took itself out. You're absolutely. This is why I love you. You're absolutely right. The garbage took itself out. Now, I prayed for you on a Thursday, and this happened on a Saturday night. And let me tell y'all, I got a text from her Saturday evening. She's literally said to me, he just broke up with me. Do you think God that was God answering a prayer? I had to laugh for about 5 minutes before I replied to her. Because I was like, girl, that's specifically what just happened. And then she told me the situation. And he broke up with her over something absolutely silly and
Ridiculous.
ridiculous. But that wasn't really the point. How he broke up with you wasn't the point, but just the fact that he was now out of your life was the answer to the prayer.
Hmm.
How was it after the breakup? Because that's what I really want people to understand. What happened between now and then?
After, don't get me wrong, like the way how I'm good now, it wasn't then. I was very confused. I was very sad. I was
Mm-hmm.
very heartbroken. I was
Mm-hmm.
just I couldn't process. I'm like, damn, he's really not in my life no more. What I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do without him? Months later, I'm doing good without him. I'm doing what I need to supposed to be doing. I'm back on track, like back on track. And also when I was with him and after we broke up, I was still like I couldn't focus because it's like I was so used to being with him. But then, weeks and months, I started to like do way, way better. And all I can really say, you just have to like give it time. You're never gonna get over someone that you truly love like this. You have to like give it time, and it's okay to still love the person. I still love Gigi, but I will never go back with I will never get back with Gigi because I chose peace. I love myself way too much to put myself back in that situation.
Yes, and it's have no idea how much it warms my heart to hear that those words out of your mouth when months ago I was concerned about you going back to him because unfortunately that's quite common.
Yeah,
What I want to point out to the audience and kind of reiterate what Janiyah is saying is that when she first got him out of her life, when the garbage took itself out, she wanted to go back. Part of her wanted to go back to the
I
trash.
did. I did. Like, I was fighting the urge to not text Gigi. I'm like, should I call him? Should I try to work this out? And something just told me, like, no, what? Just keep going. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then when my mind got used to not talking to him, I was doing like pretty good.
And I think that's an important thing to point out because just because you have an emotional attachment to someone, quote unquote, falling in love, doesn't mean that they're good for you or that attachment is good. It's kind of like if you were used to sitting in poop all day,
Hmm.
you're used to the smell of poop. It's familiar, it's comfortable. Doesn't mean you need to sit in shit all day,
Yeah,
right?
yes, yes,
And that's
and
what it's like being in a toxic relationship. You're sitting
yes,
in a pile of poop.
yes. And this was like one of the main reasons why I had like a emotional attachment to him was because, you know, he was my first everything. He was the first everything, he was the first boy kiss, and then the first boy I had sex with. I'm not proud of that, but I learned from my mistakes, and what I did was bad, but I have to accept that and learn from it. So it's not about how you start, it's always about how you finish things. You have to accept what you did was bad, put it behind you, and make sure you don't make the same mistake and become a better version of yourself. And that, and to anyone that's watching this, please be careful who you give your body to, because it can cause a lot of problems. And having sex, losing your virginity, it's no rush. It's no rush at all. I'm telling you this. You're not missing nothing. You're literally not missing nothing at all. You want to give that to someone that will truly love you, truly cherish you, not someone, not a fuck boy or a hoe. You don't want to you don't want to give that to someone that's not mature.
Right. Hmm. Now, I want y'all to know that Janaya, when we had a conversation about doing this episode, I did not plant any of that in her head. She said that to me, and I wanted to reach out and hug her. It's just like she said that to me, and I think it's important if you're a young woman out there and you've already given yourself to some jerk, somebody who doesn't really care about you, you can't go back and change that because some of y'all have and you feel bad about it. And I know that there's lots of girls out there listening right now where that's the case. And, don't just take it from my mouth, take it from, Janaya. She's 17. I'm not a
I
teenager.
did it
She
when I
is.
was 15.
And
Not I'm not
yeah.
proud of it. I'm pretty sure some girls did it at 15 or even younger. But you know,
Hmm.
please save yourself. Save yourself. Like it, just because when you keep having sex with the person, you're gonna get more and more and more attached. And don't do it. And also,
Hmm.
when you are very young, and once you have sex, it's very hard for you to stop, because us teenagers and young adults, we're still growing. We have hormones that make you want to do that stuff. So once you got a taste of it, you're like, "Ooh, okay, I like this. I want to do it again and again and again and again." And some people get so blind of the sex, but get so blind of the sex, and sometimes they don't even realize that they're in a toxic relationship.
Yes. And let me tell you, if you're an adult listening, I know half of y'all just related to what she just said because it's not just true with teenagers. There's some adults dealing with situations like that right now. Um, what do you think? Um, Now you got out of that relationship. What do you think it would have looked like had you stayed in that relationship or held on after the breakup? Because some people break up technically, but then they still keep holding on to the person. So, what do you think it would look like if you had held on or stayed in?
I would have been like texting him and calling him and like checking up on his page and
Mm-hmm.
everything. I would still like I would still want to be with him. But what I did was, when after it does see he done really messed up stuff to me. But what I did was, in order for me to truly get over it, I forgive him. I didn't tell him, "Hey, I forgive you what you did." I like said it to myself. I'm like, "You know what? He done this to me. He did this. But you
Mm,
know what? I forgive Gigi." And then after that, it's like a weight just got off my shoulders. And
wow. I think that is a critical, critical, critical piece of you having your own peace about it and being able to get over it instead of staying under it.
hmm
Because what a lot of people do, is they'll get out of a toxic relationship, but then they'll stay under it
Yeah, they hold the
instead of getting
grudges and
getting
stuff.
over it.
Yeah.
Yes, and and I get it. I get it because when people hurt people I love, I want to do things that are illegal. But but at the end of the day, you have to, if you forgive them, it actually helps you. It
Right.
doesn't matter if they accept it or not or
Right.
what they think.
And you don't even have to tell them. You can tell it yourself. You can, like,
Right.
for me, how I express myself, I talk to myself. I have a whole conversation. Like, I had a whole conversation with myself. I could do it in a room. I could walk outside and have a conversation with myself. I could go to the park. Do, like, that's what I did. I just talked to myself, and I'm like, you know what? I forgive Gigi. You guys can do that as well, or if you guys want to write or whatever, but you don't have to rush. You don't have to rush it. When you're ready to forgive the person, that's when you do it. But mine, just mine, don't tell them.
Yes. I completely agree. Sometimes telling them might not be the best
It's
thing.
not.
If you can and it'll be received, then great. But I know that in a lot of situations that's not reality.
Yes.
So I think it's important that you pointed that out. And I'm so glad that you, like you said, you can't even imagine what it would have been like if you
I
stayed.
can't.
I'm really glad you didn't. And I'm also glad that I also want to point out the fact that Janaya didn't just do this by herself. I mean, she did it by herself, but she also had me, to somebody to talk to about it. And that's so important. Now, she had me. You might not have me. You might have a friend, a family member, um, a teacher at school, whoever it is for you. It's so important that somebody's got your back in those weak moments, who can encourage you to not step backwards. And you need to have somebody in your life that you can open up to,
Hmm.
right, Janaya?
Yes, and also I also wanted to point this out. Um, Gigi, he will also make me do stuff that I normally don't do. Like, for instance, he'll try to pressure me to smoke and drink and skip school. I did the smoking, I did the skipping school, and not and he will, because the reason why he was getting me to do that stuff, because he do that stuff and he don't go to school. And you guys want to you guys want to date someone or be around someone that has a plan, that's a good influence, because that's a good influencer, because if not, they're gonna make you turn into them, and you don't want that. You don't want that, because when him not going to school, him smoking was rubbing that on me, and I was slowly turning into him. But then one day I snapped back to who I am, and I don't do that anymore. So if someone says, if someone wants to pressure you to do something, get away from them. Get away from them as soon as possible.
That leads into what I was going to ask. What is your advice for young women who are in the same situation you were in, and maybe they want to get out, or maybe they just got out and they're so tempted to jump back in, with the same guy? What's your advice to them?
My advice to anyone that just left their relationship or is thinking about getting into a relationship, think of it as a book. You're gonna get the same beginning, you're gonna get the same ending. It's not gonna end good. You want to get a new book that's gonna have, you're gonna, a new ending. I mean, a new beginning and a new ending. Because why put yourself through that?
Mm,
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And the only person you're hurting is yourself. He knows, or he or she knows that they're hurting you. They know what they're doing, but you can't control on how they treat you, or what they do to you. But you can choose how you're going to deal with it. If you're going to stay, then you're hurting yourself. But if you're going to get out of it, you're gonna get a you're gonna you'll be better yourself. A toxic relationship is also like trying to start a new diet. When you eat junk food, you're not going to get good results. You're going to get diabetes or high blood pressure, obesity. But if you start eating good for yourself and start exercising, you're going to lose weight. You're going to have a lot of good stuff. You're going to have a lot of good things that's happening to your body, and you don't have to deal with that you don't have to deal with that when you're aging.
Wow. I'm telling you, I said this about her in the previous episode, y'all. I told you Janaya is she's 17, but she's as wise as an adult. Some of the stuff that I hear coming out of her mouth is stuff that people don't figure out until they're 40 and 50 sometimes. And a lot of what she just said, again, I didn't put that in her head. She came at me with this. And um, I also want to point out something that she said earlier, but I think it's important to point out a large part of keeping yourself from going back into the same swamp pit of a relationship that you were in was the fact that you started to recognize your own value.
Yes, at first,
Do you think that not knowing your own value is why you got into the relationship in the first place?
yes, yes. Because
Mm.
guys, I was 15. I was all over the place because that's because when I was in ninth grade, it was COVID and stuff. But during COVID, you had the option to either stay home or do it in person. So I was happy. I'm like, oh my god, I have a little boyfriend now. Blah 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 blah. And he's like saying, yeah, let's do this. Let's have sex. Let's do all this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I thought that was cool, but it's not. It's not cool, and I didn't know who I was, and I just let someone
Mm-hmm.
just I just let someone pressure me into doing something that I didn't want to do because I was trying to fit in and trying to impress this person that don't truly care about me.
Right. Well, there's so much more we could talk about in this conversation, and there is more we're going to talk about in the future. But Janaya, I really, really thank you for bringing this up and wanting to come on and have this conversation. And I'm hoping that it really does help people
Hmm.
who are out there maybe in the same situation to know that it is possible because you were able to do it.
Yes,
Um, and again, I'm so proud of you for being willing to be so open. And I know it's not easy to do that, and your willingness to help other people is amazing.
yes.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And now for a mind shifting moment. If you're listening today and you identify with a lot of what Janaya said, you might be in a toxic relationship yourself. And maybe you want to get out. I hope you do. I hope you know that you have more value than those who don't value you. If you are in a toxic relationship and you want to get out, maybe you need help. And that's okay. Believe it or not, there are people around you who you probably don't realize will help you. If you are in need of help right now, go to fatimabay.com, go to the other help page. At the bottom, you can click on a link, put in your state and city, and see what help there is around you. I hope that you got something out of today's episode and that you tune in next week for more. Thank you for listening to Mindshift Power Podcast. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Mindshifter. If you have any comments, topic suggestions, or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit fatimabay.com/podcast. Remember, there's power in shifting your thinking. Tune in for next week.